Hey everybody, Joe Ludovico here of the East Coast Schuco Monorailers. It's been a while since we put an episode up of the Modeling Shop, but we're back. And you may have noticed, we've changed a few things. We've got a new intro, and you may notice behind me, we've got a new display cabinet. No worries, we didn't get rid of the bookcase, we just moved it up in the opposite side of the room. You'll also notice, when we get there, that my workbench has been renovated, as has our other repair bench. And that's not all. In coming episodes, you'll also see our brand new spray booth and paint shop. I can't wait to show you what we've done since we've been gone, and why we've been gone for so long. But enough of that, let's get to this week's episode. In this week's episode, I'm going to show you guys a Build It segment. I'm going to show you how to build your own cars for logging and for other types of railroads, but mainly logging. This is going to be a scratch built segment, and I'll tell you what you need as soon as we get there. In addition, I'm going to show you how to maintenance your Marklin engines and cars, one of the most frequently asked questions. And finally, I'm going to give you an update on the monorails. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Let's get modeling. So you'll notice that my workshop has been renovated. I've been making some investments in tools and all kinds of things. That'll come in handy later. But more importantly, you'll notice I've got a line of cars here going across my bench. These are not store-bought cars. These are cars that I made over the years. This car here, this NYC Hopper car, as you can see, is very, very soot-covered and grimy. This is a set. This will soon be a set of 6. I'm going to make 6 of these total. They're my take on coal hoppers from a New York Central HO scale coal hopper. I've designed these so that the inside comes out and it looks like there's been coal in it. These are store-bought kit cars, the NYC hoppers, that I have weathered and put a load in. I'm still fabricating the load, and there's plenty of prefab loads out there, but I kind of wanted to make my own. And I'll get it where I want it eventually, but it's not there yet. The next car here, this is a logging car, my first ever logging car. It's a pre-built car that I had in my fleet, and I said, alright, I'm going to take it and weather it, like as I did. I cut my own load, cut some chain, and there you have it, a nice log car. You'll also notice, if you can tell on the camera, it's hard to tell, but I took sawdust and put wood chippings on the car. I do that with all my logging cars. I put wood chippings on them. Here's the little added detail. Same thing here. This is another logging car that I built. Wood chips on the bottom, although that didn't show up as much as I wanted it to. Weathered it and made it a logging car. Made it look a little more realistic. This car here, this is the first ever empty logging car I did, and you'll note these are all plastic cars with metal bases. I hadn't really started scratch building yet. This is the first empty one I did. Not a bad attempt. You can see the sawdust there now. It looks pretty good. Again, you know, my first shot at it, and I had a lot of improvement to do. This was a car I was actually going to make as a production model and sell at train shows, but I never did. I made it to look, I made it to be easy to mass produce, but also look really good at the same time. So it kind of looks a little bit factory-ish, but that wasn't the idea. It was just to make it easier for me to produce a lot of them. Although I never did that, so it's in my fleet. This one here, this is my first ever scratch build car. The pylons, these here that are holding the wood up, are plastic. The chains are metal. I hand cut the logs on this baby. You'll notice I signed it. Yeah, I did sign it, but this is a flat piece of balsa wood. I hadn't really gotten into making the frames of the cars yet. I just made the car itself out of basswood and put holes for the trucks. So that's the first logging car I ever built. So yeah. This guy here, it was a big leap for me. This was another pretty cool log car. This was the second one I built. I actually made this to be a water tanker. So I built the frame around a tank that I had. I actually cut the tank up a bit to get it to look the way I wanted it to. And I also hand put a latch top on the tank as well. Again, still solid balsa wood. And yeah, that's this car here. It's a nice little piece. I actually enjoyed this one. This was a cool build. This was the big leap here. This is where I started. You can see I started scratch building the base. Now you can see how I did the framing here to look like a car frame. This is a utilities car for a logging railroad. I even scratch built the roof, although I have a solution to that too that you guys can use. You can see again I hung chain off it and the whole 9 yards, and it's pretty cool. It's came out quite nice. I'm very happy with this. And last but certainly not least, it's not done yet. This is the next car I'm working on here. You can see how it's coming. It's going to be a multi-use car as well. I have one of the trucks for it in the basin with a coupler that was a spare that I found on my bench. But again, I hand-built the frame on this guy. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to build one of these guys, a scratch-built frame. I'm going to show you how to do this. I'm going to show you how to make it look realistic, and I'm going to show you how easy it is. So without any further ado, let's get to it. Okay, so you'll see here I have my beam. This is the straight beam we're going to start with. You go to Home Depot, and this is exactly where I got this beam. This is a 1/4 inch by 3 foot long beam. It's the smallest. You go down the dowel aisle where they have all the railings and bannisters and that thing, and all the trimmings, the trims and everything. This is where it's at. It's the smallest dowel they sell. This one right here. Now, I don't use measurements when I build my cars, and anybody that knows me will tell you that. I just don't do it. But the cars generally are about 5.5 inches long. So they're a little bit big for HO. I'm actually building them more towards the ON30 side. I want them to match up more, because that's what I run with my logging, is ON30. So, you know, the scratchbook cars I do are a little bit on the big side. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to mark off 2 5.5 inch sections with my ruler here. And, you know, I could do it with a ruler, and I'm going to, that's a great way to do it, but I'm going to show you how I always do it. Saves you so much time. It seems lazy, but you take the car, back this up a little bit. Okay, so you take the car and you flip it, and you line the tip of the car up with the end here, and you can see right here is my line. So I'm actually going to give myself a little bit of room. So when we go over to the scroll saw to cut this, yes, I have a miniature scroll saw, which is much safer than a regular electric circular saw. We have more room because the blade's going to take a little bit off of that, so we want to make sure we give it a little bit of room. So from there, we're going to line that up, and we're going to say here's another 5.5. And I usually get 2 or so cars out of a beam, and that's usually pretty good. And then we need this measurement, which is roughly 1 3/4 of an inch. Let me see. Yeah. Yes. It's 1 and really, yeah, 1 3/4 inch. And so we're gonna mark that. This is my highly accurate measuring system, folks. Highly accurate. There are some modelers out there who are right now going, why? This is just how I do it. Everybody has their own technique. But now we have this measured out. We're going to go over to the scroll saw, cut our pieces out, and come back here. I should also note that we're going to cut out this middle piece, but we'll do that in a second. I'm going to show you how we measure that out in a second. Alrighty, here we are at the scroll saw. We're getting ready to make our first cut. Okay, so I'm going to line this right up, and you can see how I'm lining it up on the line. Very simple. I'm going to turn my scroll saw on. So now we have our pieces cut. I did trim, I have to trim this one too. I'm going to have to trim them a little bit because, again, the measurements are not 100% accurate. So what happens inevitably is you're going to have the necessity to trim. Now make sure when using the saws that you follow all the safety instructions. I don't need anybody losing a finger, God forbid. I ask, please follow the instructions. And just be careful. Let's head back over to the workbench and start constructing our car. Alright, so we're back at the workbench, and a few things to point out. When you look at the underside of this car, I already cut our smaller beams, and I'm going to have to recut them because I cut them a little bit too big. But what I do is I take one of these, I cut a third one of our beam that goes right here, and I cut it in half, and I usually take a little bit off. So I didn't take the little bit off. So what I'm going to do is we're going to construct what we have, and I'm going to put the third beam, these two beams in, once I trim a little more off them in between shots for this segment. This middle beam, very simple. You cut a third one of our length beams, so I cut 3 of these instead of 2. Okay, that's all there is to it. It's not that hard. So we're going to start putting this guy together. I have my wood glue, and I've also got my hammer. And these little nails here. These are miniature black nails. That's what they look like. I usually use these for my HO track, but I also use them for the cars because they make great little holders for the cars. And you can paint over them, or you can leave them, make them look like rivets, which is pretty cool. A lot of the old cars have like studs in them. You know, the big metal nails they would hammer in to hold them together. So it's your choice. This one I painted over them. You don't even notice that they're there. And then there's another car that I left them out. Oh, actually, right here. This one right here. This car. I left them exposed. So, many ways of doing it. Now, we're going to start construction. So very simple. First thing I like to make sure everything fits before I put any glue on anything. If I have any measurement issues, now is the time, ladies and gentlemen, now is the time that we want to correct this. And I'm already noticing one of you caught it. Two ones, actually. So, okay, let's try this. As I am fitting everything, and I am knowing that... There we go. Alright, now we got it. I thought we had a problem, but we don't. Just make sure that that's good. So, I inadvertently made these too wide. And I'm noticing that... Oh! Now I'm noticing why. Alright, now, I'm doing it the wrong way. I'm putting it together the wrong way. I'm thinking of a different... I'm thinking of a kit that I'm working on right now. Anyway, now I've got I made it a little bit longer than I intended to, but what can you do? That's okay. And this guy goes in the middle. And then we'll add our third, or our side beams in. Alright, so I like to put my glue in and then hammer it in. Let me do that, and then we'll come back and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay. So I've constructed our base for the car here, and you can see that I've put on the 2 inner beams. I've cut them so they're nice and level and correct. So now we have some decisions to make. Do we want to put planks like we have here? And if we do, there's a couple of options. Or do you just want to take a piece of balsa wood and go right over the top, make it flat, and you have a wooden flat car or the making of a wooden box car? In this case, I'm going to show you how to do the plank technique. Again, done with balsa wood. This is it's 3 foot by, it's 3 feet long by 3 inches wide by an 1/8 inch thick piece of balsa wood. You can get this at your local hobby store. That's where I got mine. I use this to make the planks. There's a number of ways you can do it. They sell it with the planks pre-cut, so that's one way, so you can get it that way if you want the really easy way out. They make planked wood out there that you can buy. It's actually made with laser cuts, and it looks like planking. Another option, you can cut a straight piece of balsa wood, mount it on the base, and then just score it so it has the boards. And the third option, which is the one I usually do, I cut the balsa wood strips by hand. I actually take the balsa wood and I measure it. I get the flat piece, and then I actually cut them and mount them individually, so you get the real, like as you can see here, it looks like it's individual planks. You can see that. That's why you get that look. And also over time it'll warp a little bit and space apart. So if you if you put the glue and the wood chips in like I've done, you can see it in here. They'll get in between the boards, and you get a really, really good look. So that's what we're going to do. What I like to do is to take my car that I have here, move the camera so you can see this. Okay. So I take my car, and I've got a long counter, so I have plenty of room to work here. Alright. So I take my car, and I usually work towards the end here. And this is I actually built this. I bought the saw blade separate, and I had the back end of an X-Acto knife. You can actually mount, just screw this straight in, but I had the broken end of an X-Acto, and I glued it, so I've got a handle on it, so it's a little more comfortable for me to grip. But if you want to use the X-Acto handle and screw it in there, that's fine too. Take my little X-Acto saw, and I'm going to cut this by hand. Now I've got it marked. So now I'm just going to run my X-Acto. Until I get it through. Okay, and I'm through. And I'm just going to go a little bit more here. You have to think of this knife as this saw is almost a knife blade. So you can see it's not exactly even. I'm just going to even it up a second here. Again, I'm telling you, I don't use measurements. So that's why I say I just take the base of my car. So that's my measurement guide to my car. You know, again, each guy's, I'm going to have some guy going, why don't you use measurements? That's why I gave you some measurements. And you can see now we've got it on. Now you can mount it just like this, as I have it, and leave it like that and make a boxcar. You can also score it, and you'll have that same look of boards. But I want to mount them individually so that, again, it looks like the boards are warped. And it looks like the boards are individual. And again, the sawdust will get in there. Now, what we're going to do, I'm going to pause this. I'm going to cut these out in strips. No particular length or width. No particular width, excuse me. And I'll glue them in and we'll come back. Okay, so I've added the planks, as you can see. They've all been glued. I use wood glue for all of my cars. And so they've all been added. The next thing you can do, you have options. You can stain it and paint it, which I recommend. And then there is, of course, the issue of coupler and truck mounting, which that's going to be in the next video. So that'll be the next video we do. We'll be mounting the trucks and the couplers, and I'll even show you how we painted it. And this one we're gonna do in my new paint booth. I'm very excited about to have a new paint shop. It's actually across the hallway. I'm very excited. We're gonna show you that next video. And we'll use the spray booth, and I'll show you how to paint this guy, how to stain it, and how to mount the trucks and the couplers. All right, so that's basic construction of a car, a car for a flatbed for multi-use for logging, 0-130 scale. You can modify this for HO, any scale you want, but the construction remains the same. And that's basically it. So next, we're going to show you how to lubricate and maintain a Marklin locomotive. Alright, so we're at the workbench, and you can see I've got a Marklin diesel locomotive on there. As you can see, it needs a little lubrication. So we're going to lubricate it. This is one of the most commonly asked questions that I get, and that is, how do you lubricate your locomotive? Well, as you can see here, your Marklin locomotive has a series of gears only on one side of the engine. That's this side here. That is, folks, you can see it right here. Okay. What you're going to want to use, you have options when it comes to lubricating these locomotives. I'm going to tell you this, and I cannot tell you how many times I get locomotives like this, whether it's O, HO, N, Z, G, whatever the gauge, S, I get them. They're saturated in WD-40. God, please do not use WD-40. Don't use it. It actually ruins any lubrication that's in the gears and will actually destroy your gears. Do not use WD-40. Your best bet, you've got two options. The one that you probably won't be able to find, but it's the one that you should use, is this guy. And that's actually Marklin Lubricant, designed for Marklin locomotives. Like Lionel and MTH and whatever, the companies usually make their own lubricant. That's what I recommend. Use the manufacturer's lubricant. If you can't find that, Your next best bet is going to be to get this guy. Hobby Lube Premium Oil. This is the... It's made by Woodland Scenics, and this is their medium oil. Okay, as you can see it here. It's got the little distributor on top, like a little needle. Okay, that's your best bet if you can't find the Marklin or the whatever it is whatever it is the manufacturer makes. It's Hobby Lube. But do not use WD-40. That is the worst possible thing you could do when lubricating a locomotive. Now, the thing with Marklin Lubricant, when you open it up, it has this little... You can see that. It's a little like a needle. It's not actually for applying the lubricant. It's just to help you to unclog, because sometimes the lubricant gets solid in the nozzle here, and it unfortunately you have to unclog it, and that's why they give you this. Sort of like you get the puncture device with the crazy glue, but that's to unclog this. So you notice what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the lubricant. I'm going to gently put it in each of the gear sections. Just a drop. That's all you need. That gets it. Okay, just a drop. And I'm just going to let that sit for a couple of seconds and let it do its thing. Let's see. Being careful not to get oil on the contact or any of the wheels themselves, because that will demolish the engine. It'll make it run slower. It'll affect the electrical continuity, and the engine will slip as opposed to gripping on the track. Okay. And what you can do, if your engines are freewheeling like mine all are, you can take them and you can just manually move the wheels. Okay. And get the oil to go around yourself. So we're going to pop this guy back on the track and let's see how we did. I think it's running pretty good. Now I'm going to show you one other engine. I'm not going to lubricate it because it's been lubricated, but I'm going to show you where to lubricate on it, and that's this guy. This is a Marklin engine as well. It's a 2-truck engine, which is a little bit different than the single. I'm going to show you why. Point of reference, the 2-truck locomotives, this contact, whichever direction your engine runs. If it runs this way, the contact is in the front. If it runs this way, the contact is always in the front. Don't ever, ever, ever run it this way and have your contact in the rear. Always in the front. Okay, alright, so trusty hook, so I could show you where to lube. You'll notice this guy again has the same lubrication on the front truck here, on this back truck, but there is none on the front. Do not ever lubricate up here. These wheels have no gears, they're all freewheeling. If you lubricate up here, you're going to mess with the electrical continuity. Don't do that. Back here only. Okay? Alright. That is how to lubricate your Marklin locomotives. And now we'll go over to the monorails for a checkup on what's new there. Alright, so I thought we would conclude today's episode with a little bit of an update on the monorails. So as you can see, the backgrounding behind us has changed. You may notice right there there's something that looks kind of orange and yellow. That's a Lionel poster that I had printed out. It's a reproduction of an original. Because we are not only sitting behind the monorails, we are sitting behind the quote-unquote storefront of J&J Hobbies. The door, there's a glass panel door there. It says J&J Hobbies on it, and we did a lot of refurb around here, and you'll see it in future episodes. We put in a whole storefront, kind of like a false roof with the false door inside, and you'll see. But we've also repainted behind the monorail. We put up our Wall of Fame there. We just got featured in a newspaper article at the last train show we were at, so that was pretty cool. That was 2 years ago now. Kind of hard to believe it was 2 years ago when we had the last train show, which is crazy. But yeah, we did get featured in that, so that's up there now, joining our articles that we've already been featured in. And some very exciting monorail news. You may recognize this guy from 2 episodes ago. This is the French, if I get there it is. The French, there it is, the French monorail set. Remember I said I'm looking for the French manual? Well, guess what? I found it. The original French monorail manual. This manual sells for, and there's only 4 of these known to exist, so I have one of the 4, which is pretty cool. These are the rarest variation of the Schuko monorail manuals ever made. They retail anywhere between $175 and $250. And you can see here that I'm showing you some of the interior stuff. This is the actual manual. This is not a reproduction. This is the real deal. So I got it from my friend who is a monorail collector out in Colorado. I've mentioned him in a few previous episodes. His name is Doug Burwell. He has his own website where he sells monorails and parts and things like that for anybody who needs it. I believe the website is DisneylandSchukoMonorail.com. That's his website. If you need anything, you can go there and check him out. In addition, he also had a very special manual as well. He had the equally rare English monorail manual, which I bought from him. This one worth about the same, $175 to $250. So we now have the 2 rarest variations of the monorail manuals in our collection. So you see what I'm saying? I'm hunting things down. They're coming in, and we're building our collection to be rarer and rarer. So now we have the manual to match the French set and the English manual. So that's what's new with the monorails. There's the layout behind me. That's what's new with the monorails thus far. And of course, as I get more stuff in, we'll give you more updates, and we'll keep you posted on all things monorail. And do check back as we learn more about, with this coronavirus pandemic, what the story is and what the future holds with train shows. I will do my best to update you guys and things like that. It's just so hard. I don't see anything in the future coming in the near future. You know, and it's hard to tell what's going to happen. So I will do my best to keep you guys updated. So that concludes this week's episode of the Modeling Shoppe. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please comment down below if you want us to include different content. And if you have questions and concerns and answers you might be looking for, please let us know. Thanks for watching, and for all of us here at East Coast Schuko Monorailers and now J&J Hobbies, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep on modeling.